Hello, everyone. Very nice to have all of your company. Thank you very much. Um, Today is the first Sunday of February 2022. We are doing the regular 11 o'clock meditation, and our talk in this session is going to be honoring the most venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed away only a couple of weeks ago. And so I thought it would be good to draw everybody's attention on this important figure. Not only um, uh, he passed away, but he actually is living the very even more so than he was present in his mortal body because of his noble activities. So I thought I wanted to remind everybody not it as a loss, but actually as a real gain for having such a great being. The world has been graced. Whether you have met or not is a different matter, but you will you will experience his contribution if you not already have. So I thought it would be good to honor him as part of this morning's meditation and particularly the talk. So we always begin our session with reminding everybody to bring to their full attention and good intention in the 4S. The first S is the stillness of bringing your physical posture in a sitting very still in a meditative posture, what Thich Nhat Hanh would call it, bring here and now. So being the stillness, the first S. Second S is even though your physical body is very still, but you have to be very sincerely. The sincerity you have to have bring your heart felt. The inner stillness is the sincerity. If your heart is doing something opposite to the body trying to sit still, then it's not going to be really. It's just going to be external stillness lacking inner stillness. So the sincerity of your intention with which you try to be fully present in the meditation. And third is the serenity. Third S is serenity. Your mind, your intellect has to be very serene and very clear, very conscious in being present in the meditation technique. So you're physically still, you're emotionally very sincere, you have to be intellectually very, very serene. And these three qualities, when brought together, constitute the fourth, simplicity, which actually is the very message of Thich Nhat Hanh, was simply come to the breath, breathe in, and then smile. It just takes that. What does it take? Why so hard? Why it has to be so hard? Why have to do 3 hour ritual to get some benefit when you can do that? So simple. So fourth S is simplicity. Every now and then you try to do that. So I'm trying to remind you the Thich Nhat Hanh's message of these things in the usual 4S I have been using to promote the meditation. So at the very beginning we will do a short refuge prayer, and that is the refuge in the Buddha, the enlightened one. And being present, even for a few moments, is really bring yourself in the light of being present. So taking refuge in the Buddha is not seeking some Buddha out there from India to come and pick you out or pluck you out of samsara. It has never happened and won't happen, so don't even try that. It is try to bring the presence of your goodness in you. That is the refuge in the Buddha. And but that refuge in the Buddha is not going to be. You could not be very present unless you are well versed in the Dharma. Dharma is the actual teachings of the Buddha, the messages that Thich Nhat Hanh has been trying to teach last 65 years, if not more, ever since he took the role of a teacher, he never stopped teaching that very message of kindness, compassion, and peace. So taking refuge in the Dharma. The Dharma is in some books or texts that you bow down to, but try to reconstitute and change your mentality from deluded from the selfish to the selfless, from the anger to the compassion, from the sadness to the joy, from the complexities to the simplicity. That is the Dharma. That is the simple. The Dharma is very simple. It may be written in Chinese, or written in Vietnamese, written in Tibetan. You don't have to try to master the language to know the Dharma. Real language of Dharma is kindness. Kindness. And do that with a smile. Why it has to be so complicated? I just have to let go of my own self-importance and put others first. And so the refuge in the Dharma is realization of Dharma, that we actually understand the Dharma. We have to understand. We have to hold the hands of suffering, and then we will find the compassion. We cannot push the suffering away and then think we can be compassionate from remote. We go to the moon and then practice compassion to the beings on the earth. It's not like that. We have to be with the people and be present with those who are suffering. That's the Dharma. Refuge in the Dharma is just what we do that is good, that reconstitute and shift and change our monologue. We suffer monologuing. We need to change the substance of the monologue. That's meditation. Yeah, yes. The substance of monologue is good. You are happy to keep smiling, keep inhaling, and this depends on the existence of the fellowship of Dharma. That's called Sangha, the fellowship of Sangha. And Thich Nhat Hanh has produced very wide network of fellowship through his silent work. It may be misunderstood as you have to become one of his gray, brown robe-wearing monks or nuns who are so still and who hardly sees you, who just walks past you. Yeah, you don't have it. It's his network of Sangha. His message of peace and simplicity and kindness is much wider than that. It is not in the robes. It is not on the shaving of the hair. He has just as much influence, tenfold more times than ordained monks are. So there are lots of lay people out in the community. Through his engaged Buddhism message has touched the souls and spirits of many people. So therefore, Thich Nhat Hanh's Sangha is not like a monastic, propagating only monasticism. That's the only way. The world would not be able to relate it. It never was able to be fully related, even by full Buddhist culture. There's always been only 8-9% of true Buddhist countries taking a monastic role, but where are the 91% going to go? And Thich Nhat has tried to make which engage Buddhism. So the Sangha's work of selflessness and generosity and discipline, and that has been much more well received in the wider work and through his peace active works and so on. So I would like you to remember when we said that prayer in the refuge in the Triple Gem, how much of life of Thich Nhat Hanh was propagating the very three jewels that people tend to be taking refuge, but always seek from outside. and then only take the Buddha of their own culture. The Thais only worship Thai Buddha, and Japanese worship only their Buddhas. Tibetan only their Buddha. Not that kind of worshiping their own sculptures. Not refuge in the sculptures. And the refuge in the actual the goodness in us that awakes from the slumber of sleep. So actually, that's what the Thich Nhat Hanh's message has been: how to engage the triple gem in our everyday, what he call miracle of mindfulness. What's the miracle of mindfulness? Creating rocket and go to the moon. That could be called as a miracle of mindfulness. They're also a product of use of mind too. But here, the miracle is that you bring the Buddha in you, and Dharma in you, and Sangha in you, and actualize them in your everyday engaged form of Buddha Dharma. So when we say the refuge 3 times in a minute, please reflect that in relation to Thich Nhat Hanh's valid contribution. And then as we do the 4 immeasurable, which is love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, these are very much the core teachings of how Thich Nhat Hanh lived. As a very difficult time of Vietnam being divided into 2, and then the war, and then as a refugee, then as a peace activist, and then finally doing a lot of leadership work around the world, and finally creating Plum Village in France, and then propagating the teachings through his practice. So the whole 4 immeasurables, immeasurable loving kindness that he lived, immeasurable compassion that he says is only when you have suffering. There's no compassion without suffering. The 2 is mutually coexistence. So we have to live with the compassion, live with suffering, and until we are able to turn that into cause of compassion. So immeasurable compassion. I'm sure his followers, his writings, his many books are very much, I would say, clear messages of the need to practice compassion. And then there's a lot of joy in the practice that he promotes, those who live by it. There's a lot of contentment and joy that does not come from love of other people, attention of other people, or that kind of happiness that some Buddhist circles are promoting, happiness and its causes, as if some people need to do things to make you happy. It's not that. It's your own humility, your own goodness, your own true refuge in the Dharma that brings a lasting joy, the joy that is boundless joy. And if some things in life, which majority are, some things we could not totally conquer, then practice equanimity. Best of all, don't try to be the fixer and rescuer of the problem. Don't try to be the rescuer of all problem, So therefore, all these 4 immeasurable prayer we will do also very much echoes the work of a very modern day arhat, I would say. In the old days, during Buddha's time, his very key disciples were rich arhathood, or maybe they said, they levitated in the sky, half of their body was burning in fire, half of the body was dripping with water. They're showing some kind of spectacles. So all these arhat were reputed to have shown spectacles to be arhat. But no, I think Thich Nhat Hanh did exactly the opposite. It's not the burning half body in fire and dripping with water that's miracle. It is the whole body, whole entity of Thich Nhat Hanh is full of love, compassion, and wisdom, and how to be simply being present. What's the point of burning your body into half? And the pyrotechnic do much better than arhats. Don't you think? I don't know how many people, why all these people are flocking into the Sydney Harbour to watch the New Year fireworks because they think it's really miraculous. No, actually, that's $1 million blown in a couple of minutes. That's it. That's for nothing. But I mean, it's a quite a wondrous thing you can do as a kind of physical spectacle. Buddhism is not physical spectacle. Buddha was completely against showing miracles of the body. Even if you have such power, you should deny that you have such power, but you should hide. But instead, you promote the message of simplicity and kindness and humility and how to be simply present. I think you could not make more miraculous messages known to the world that is so, I was so articulate. The message of the Buddha could not be more expressed by a very multi-language speaking monk than Thich Nhat Hanh. He spoke fluently in French, he spoke fluently English, not to mention his mother tongue, who knows many other languages. He wrote hundreds of books. Why? Because he was spreading the message that are otherwise lost in this heavy, bombastic Dharma terminology that the dialectical monks spend 20 years burying their head before they can write a single book. Thich Nhat Hanh, before he turned 20, wrote many poetries and many books that was quite simple and easy to read and understandable even by everyone who picks it. It doesn't need another commentator, another commentary for the root text. All Buddhist texts are so much buried in this heavily coded twilight languages. But Thich Nhat Hanh changed all of that in his very unorthodox Zen method of talking in a simple language. These are the very important contributions that Thich Nhat Hanh has made. So I've already given the talk before the meditation. So let's now do the meditation first, and then after the meditation we will screen you a short a video of Thich Nhat Hanh, and that would be more useful for us all to watch. So let's now do the refuge in the Triple Gem and the remembering how a living Sangha Thich Nhat Hanh truly was. Of course, Sangha usually means Sanghas who have reached Arhathood or Bodhisattvahood. We have no way of saying he hasn't. His work is far more greater than some. In Buddhism, we don't sort of canonize Sangha after 30 years of passing away. We actually can tell from their work, from the work of the one who has been living has now become immortal because of his work. That we don't need some kind of office up in Potala or in Dharamsala where they decide who to be canonized as an arhat or not. Thich Nhat Hanh's work is self-explanatory as a work of a living arhat. So therefore today we don't have any difficulty imagining Thich Nhat Hanh as a full-fledged exalted member of the Sangha who are worthy of refuge. Usually we don't talk about taking refuge in the common Sangha, ordinary Sangha. They're just relative Sangha. They are not themselves fully enlightened. So among the congregation of the Sangha, definitely Thich Nhat Hanh names would be easily canonized and included, if not already. So therefore, I don't know how the actual tradition of Vietnamese Buddhist tradition places him in the hierarchy, but I think he has completely created anew in the world outside of Vietnamese tradition. He has been much more conversant to communicate the wider populace than his traditional Vietnamese Buddhist hierarchy would allow him, because I have had some exchanges with few other Vietnamese Buddhist leaders who had mixed opinions about where they would place him formally. So that's the kind of orthodox orthodoxy of Buddhist traditions. But we in the West are much more open-minded and appreciative of the true work done by living arhat like Thich Nhat Hanh. He's only second to His Holiness Dalai Lama in terms of how much he's well known and well loved and well respected by whole world is. So there's no doubt of his being among the objects of our what do you call inspiration, our source of inspiration, and therefore we have true reason to reflect on his work, on his legacy, as we take refuge and then generate the four immeasurables. So let's do that first, and then after that we will sit 30 minutes of total quietness. I wouldn't say a word, because you just can inhale and smile. and and that doesn't need any more instruction. You just inhale and then again smile, and again inhale and smile, and keep doing that, and don't try to make it too complicated. Okay, thank you. Now we'll screen share the prayers just in case some of you do not know the prayers. So join your hands and the heart. We'll chant these prayers in English, as which I believe is majority of the audience language. But if you know in other forms of language, you are most welcome to chant in that as well. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Fide Laitema Baivachu Ajevendala Aijare Buddha and Abu Dadarama Sangha Aite Refuge Laitama Bhavachu Ajevandala Aishare Vadavatu and Buddha Dharma Sangha Aite Refuge Laitama Bhavachu Ajevandala Aishare Vadavatu happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering, may they never part from the happiness that no suffering, may the dweller equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to those near and far, may her beings happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering, and the cause of suffering. May they never run the happiness then the suffering. May the equanimity free from her judgment and aversion to the snare and fall. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never run the happiness than suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from her judgment and aversion to the near and far. So I'll simply use the gong to start the time for you to fully being present, and inhale and then smile and try to totally be present and use those 4S we mentioned: the stillness and the sincerity and the serenity and simplicity in doing just that. So now we will first screen a short video that is a teaching given by Thich Nhat Hanh, and then I will conclude with the short remarks in commemorating, honoring Thich Nhat Hanh best way we can do. So we'll do that. Just a sec. We will screen that video.
Anyone who knows the practice of mindfulness knows that you have to go home to the present moment. When you go home to the present moment, you can find two kinds of situation. The first kind of situation is there are so many conditions of happiness available in the here and the now. When you breathe in and bring your mind home to your body, you are established in the present moment. And you notice there are so many refreshing and healing elements available in the present moment. There's also many conditions of happiness available in the present moment. And with that awareness, to generate a feeling of joy and happiness is very easy. That you can do in order to nourish yourself. To nourish yourself with joy and happiness. So that is the first thing you encounter when you go back to the present moment. The second situation is that when you go back to the present moment, you might encounter a feeling of pain, a feeling of a painful emotion that is in you. In fact, a painful feeling, a painful emotion manifests from time to time. But when it begins to manifest, we don't like to be there, so we try to run away, pretending that it is not there. So no one is there in order to take care of the painful feeling, the painful emotion. So going back to the present moment here is no longer to recognize the elements of joy and happiness, but to have a chance to take care of the pain in ourselves and to transform it. So even if the present moment is unbearable, to go back to that moment is the only chance for us to do something in order to calm it down and to transform it. Most of people don't do that because they are afraid that when they come home to themselves and touch the pain inside, they will be overwhelmed by the suffering. And that is why the practice is to run away. Imagine something about the future to forget. Go back to the past to forget. But the past and the future, they are like images, not reality. Only the present moment is real. Many people try to cover up the pain inside. Not only by going back to the past or running to the future, imagine that there will be some hope, some end of suffering in the future, but that cannot last long. And most people try to cover up the suffering inside by the practice of consumption. We read magazines, we watch television, we find something to eat, we listen to the music, we pick up the phone to talk. Everything we do because we hope that by doing these things we don't have to confront the suffering in us. And we allow that pain to continue to grow in us. So the practice of mindfulness helps us to go home to the present moment. Even the moment is not pleasant, but it is in that very moment that we can understand the suffering and that we can find a way in order to calm it down and to transform it. So next time when you find the present moment not pleasant, don't think that running away from it is the best way. No, it may be a chance. So stay in that moment, look deeply into the nature of your suffering. If you know how to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking, generating the energy of mindfulness, and then that energy of mindfulness generated by the practice help you to be strong enough to recognize, encounter the pain, and embrace it tenderly. And embracing your pain tenderly, in a few minutes you can calm it down. And if there are other practitioners practicing with you, and then you can profit from the energy of mindfulness and compassion. Getting in touch with the suffering bring about understanding of suffering and the energy of compassion. Understanding and compassion have the power to heal you and to heal the people who happen to be around you at that time. And if there is a group of people practicing together, embracing the suffering with tenderness, they will experience that collective energy of compassion that heal them. And when they suffer less, they are in a situation to help other people to do the same.
So that's a very succinct talk given by Thich Nhat Hanh in one of his many Dharma teachings. So now I would like to help you to reflect a little bit by way of honoring Thich Nhat Hanh's life and some of his fundamental messages and teachings. Of course, I have no scope of covering his life in this short time. There's no need to do that because his life and works and teachings are amply available both in printed version as well as videos and on YouTube you can watch. But I thought of bringing this at the attention of everyone, how I as a Tibetan person, although I have not had much to do with him personally, but still feel very inspired and therefore would like to offer my respect to him and what a great legacy of valid contribution he has made. And his life may have passed away, but his work is greater than his life. So that's why it is important. I remember first when I met him, that was in 1987. I had barely begun giving teachings publicly in Australia in 1987. There were merely about 6 of us on the platform at Sydney University at a conference called Strategy for Peace, hosted by Sydney University. And those days, I've never heard of him. But when I saw him, his composure, his simplicity, his fully being present, and his eloquent manner in and very unassuming Vietnamese monk. When he spoke, I straight away felt this kind of teachers are what the world today need. And of course, later on, I discovered of his journey and how much more he became through his work. Lots of Asian, I would say, a lot of indigenous Buddhist monks could not make a huge impact in the world unless they all already enjoyed a great fame and reputation status like his soulless Dalai Lama did. Most of them are covered in their own culture and linguistic barrier and a pressure to remain orthodox, loyal to their traditions, and looking inward tradition. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh, from his work, he already felt there was no time for that. When he saw his own country torn into two pieces because of the South and the North Vietnam situation with the French colonization for many years, and how Christianity has already sort of overtaken the otherwise Buddhist majority, his vast country of Vietnam, he could see this inward-looking Buddhist tradition has been the cause of their own demise. To the extent of the younger generation wanting to learn some other religions, because Buddhism was only seemed to be inwardly looking, relevant for the monks and those who are ready to go to the hermit and shave. Even very devout Buddhist families have their children in their 20s really have struggle of trying to be Buddhist because they just can't imagine themselves becoming one of the monks and practicing those. But yet they want to be supportive of their parents to do the right thing, you know. And yet, when they go and do things together as a Buddhist retreat or some few days, they can say, "Oh, you can't sing, you can't dance," and forget it, you know. And all the Buddhist youth get really totally discouraged by, you know, you have to either become a monk or nun, or just no for that, no room for that. So I think Southeast Asian Buddhist culture has actually become exposed to the Christian missionary works where they try to lure people into going into parties, Christian camps where a lot of singing and dancing and attracting youths and things like that. And the Buddhist youth, when they go to Buddhist retreat, they have to be completely silent, you know, and so on and so forth. So I think when Thich Nhat Hanh promoted the whole idea of engaged Buddhism, that was in Vietnam, you know. That was before he left Vietnam, you know. So when he coined the word engaged Buddhism, there was this feeling of Buddhism being disengaged in the society, and to the majority of the masses, actual people, lay people. You know, it wasn't that he was saying that there's no role for monks. The monks have to go out and roll the sleeves and go out and become part of the community to help, to assist, to promote the teachings of the Buddha, and not having themselves staying in very nice, comfortable temples and have everything provided for them. And the teaching isn't really going out there, getting out there. And while the Christian missionaries have already sort of converted in millions in Vietnam, and and then all his country was politically divided into two, he became more active than a monk need to be. He was politically motivated to do something that in spirituality of Buddhism, that he has so much faith in wanting to become monk by his own choice at the age of 16. So you can see the great calling that this young Vietnamese boy had when he became ordained. That his name Thich Nhat Hanh actually means action. So he realized that that the action that Buddhist people weren't taking, because Buddhists are always taking a back seat, being patient and let things go and let go and not have a voice and so on and so forth. While this was very much concordant with the teachings of the Buddha, because you never can win by tit for tat, and action against violence against violence is never the kind of answer for that. But nevertheless, Thich Nhat Hanh had the message when he coined the word engaged Buddhism. Means socially, Buddhists aren't very active. And even when youth try to practice Buddhism, they can't do this, can't do this, can't do that. Almost they have to become monk over that 4 days or 2 days, 3 days retreat they will have. Now what you see today in Thich Nhat Hanh's Plum Village community type of thing, you can see his monks and nuns are very, very still and very, very disciplined, but they have no hesitation in singing and chanting and playing music. You can see the transformation. You can see the transformation, what he meant, that we need to promote Buddhism in a much more the contemporary related issues, and that people can relate to, rather than listing the list of precepts and get caught up in that and looking in that and then only succeed to discourage the majority of the masses from coming to the temples. Why did Plum Village become one of the biggest Buddhist retreats in the West? Is because his open-mindedness basically broke away all those walls. He was not comfortable sitting in that box. He wasn't sitting in the same box Buddhism, but yet he never compromised the teachings. His teachings and his discipline, his message was always one: simplicity and self-discipline, compassion, and being in the present. Hence, his book called Miracle Mindfulness. The miracle mindfulness actually is a kind of a, I would say, actual word of the original word comes from the Buddha, and then Nagarjuna. They all use the word about that mindfulness is nectar, mindfulness is miracle, and even there's out of the 37 factors of enlightenment, there's a leg of miracle. You can, when you have mindfulness, you will gain 4 legs of miracles. Means that every walk of your life become miraculously present and simple and useful. So you can see the very ability to coin terms like miracle mindfulness, instead of translating some very orthodox books with the very faithful to the text and whatever you call it. But the miracle mindfulness as a title, as one of his many best-selling books, very much captures a simple way that everyone can relate to. He was able to engage anyone who opened his book. They can always read from cover to cover and not get stuck in the first chapter and don't want to read the second because they're full of bombastic Buddhist jargon and with too many Sanskrit and lot of brackets in which you put all these foreign words, and most people hardly can read as all the what we call as all the academic Buddhist works are. His book was completely simple and poetically, beautifully presented that anyone can open and read. He was able to communicate to the masses of the message of the Buddha, which is really compassion. And his whole, that term that we heard he used in that very short talk was being in the present in the moment. And of course, some people have hijacked that title and said the present moment, miracle, powerful moment, power of now, or they go, power of now. Where did the word power of now came from? Thich Nhat Hanh's idea of how everything you should be present, What has power of now has? If power of now has, then it is now all the time with us. Where is the power gone? If you are not present, there is no power in the now. But the subject has to be present. Subject has to be present. But with the subject of the subject has to be present in the past, in the very meaningful way. So he's talking not being present in the moment, so much so that you block the past or not think of the future. He says you've got to face the sufferings that you have denied, you try to run away, that you try to suppress. And so meditation is where you try to sit still, where you try to sit quietly, you actually become fully present and then begin to actually understand the suffering. That we try to run away, that we try to resist, that we try to deny, that we try to argue, that we try to stay angry with. But instead, when we fully just have a real monologue with the present, in the very present moment, it is very unpleasant. It is unpleasant. You think all those people wearing robes and sitting there quietly, motionless, sitting there, they're having a miracle mindfulness? I don't think so. Most of the time they're having the most unpleasant experience of the past they try to run away from. Because Buddhism tends to promote that you have to renounce the world. Now, the renunciation of the world is not about running away, but rather renouncing the running away. Renouncing the running away from things. Running away from home, running away from duties, running away from the things. That's not renunciation. That's escapism. Renunciation has a very negative connotation, but actually means being fully present. You're being fully present in actually understanding what I'm trying to run away from. What am I trying to run away from? So therefore, some of the unpleasant experiences that one has wrongly denied or desisted, now one need to face them. And when you truly understand suffering that you try to run away from, which never gets avoided, discarded by running away from, it actually escalates. So in the deep meditation, when you're truly present, you understand the suffering and the causes, and then the true, when he calls the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, he calls them ill-being. Ill-being. He calls the truth of suffering ill-being. And he calls the true origin of suffering the making of ill-being, So he uses terms like that, which he has complete license to do. Because in Buddhism, Buddha taught 12 different methodologies of language that you can use to teach, to facilitate according to the capacity of the people. So one doesn't have to be totally stuck down in this fixed terminology or etymological meaning of some words. And he's very, very like a poet. He has the license of being artist in articulating the language, and therefore using the words like, instead of truth of suffering, he's ill-being. Now, of course, that's his choice. There's nothing, everybody can use the term. Buddhist teaching in English language is still in the early developing stages. There is no standard terminologies most people can understand. They're still in early stages before it is fully standardized. And of course, Thich Nhat Hanh is very well versed in Sanskrit, as well as classical Chinese, as well as his mother tongue Vietnamese, and therefore he can explain those without losing the meanings in a best possible way. So he actually were talking about how to face the past in the present. Being fully present, then the past becomes revisited in a skillful way instead of brushing aside or brushing under the carpet, which most people tend to do. Deny, oh, don't want to talk about, don't want to talk about. They suppress these so much negative feelings, and then one day they all explode, and then they go to the therapist, and then they express all their sorrows as they are victim. They never took responsibility of what to do with the past. They themselves have denied having any role to play. So therefore, suffering, which in Buddhism is almost like in every couple of sentences there will be word suffering, And if you're not present, you're denying the suffering. Why so noble about the suffering if you deny? There's nothing there. But if you accept the suffering, if you understand the suffering, to understand you got to be present. You got to be fully present to understand all the causes and conditions that has contributed these things, and then you understand the making up of the ill-being, making up of the suffering. Then you develop compassion to all parties, including oneself, and therefore he says you cannot become compassionate person to others unless you have been kind to yourself, unless you are fully present to accept your past, take it or leave it, and then truly make peace with it. And then you realize in being fully present, you actually are more reconciler of your past, and therefore actually giving the peace that you so deserve. Because running away from suffering, keeping themselves very busy, doing this, doing that, in the meantime there's a pile of suffering that has never been addressed, and that's causing this huge surge of the emotional problems and mental problems that our first world citizens are suffering today. They're all earning 6-digit income. They have nice houses. They have maybe 2 houses, some people, a car, maybe a boat, all of these things. But the suffering is even more than that. Suffering is more than that. So that what they develop, artificially nothing. They develop into more suffering than they can deal with it. Because they never got able to sit still and do a genuine retreat. He runs all those winter retreats, summer retreats, spring retreat, and autumn retreat, and on top of the various other weekend teachings. And during that time, people actually observe this simple technique of just watching their breath and inhale mindfully, and then see how easy it is to actually face the very present in a good space, what the past we never learned to face presently. We try to push it away, we try to deny, we try to reject, and if that is done, that it will snowball, and one will be completely covered in this poor me mentality rest of the life. So that's why doing those retreats, in which many people have benefited enormously, and through his writings, through his messages, people have actually experienced the miracle of being mindful in the present in simple breathing practice, and then learning to practice compassion to oneself rather than blaming and being a self-critic. In the West, people are so expert in being self-critic. There's nobody teaches them to do that. Maybe they have sort of heard in the past life, it's all their fault. It's all your fault, they say that. It's all your fault. In Buddhism, we never say that. That's nobody's fault. There's no self even. If there is, it's all interdependent. Very good. Very compassionate to you. He says interbeing. It's everything. There's no high, there's no low, there's no sorrow, there's no joy. There's no right, there's no left. So he translates the teachings of emptiness and interdependent origination without using those terms. This is the art of teaching, is that you use simple languages in a simplest way through his manner, through his way of being, and not to complicate the teachings. Buddhism becomes so unengageable for ordinary people because they are so afraid of this list of bombastic dialectical terminology, which is too mouthful even just to remember, let alone apply the meanings. He's able to use the simple language without watering them down. This is the miracle of mindfulness of using the right language. Buddha emphasized that you must master 5 fields of studies, including linguistics. He's not talking about linguistic in the linguistic department. He's talking about language of communication, how to relate the profound messages in a simple languages. And so any book that you read, Thich Nhat Hanh's books, you wouldn't really need to coin or give a label, whether it's Buddhism or Christianity. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh transcended the borders. He called Buddhism without border. What he's saying is Buddhism is completely covered in borders of culturalism, of ethnicity, of languages. Like all the Buddhist traditions, even here in the small town of Canberra, there's Burmese, there's Thai, there's Sri Lanka, they never want to mix together. They almost hate each other. Because they have these borders of whose language they should use, whose Buddha sculptures they should use, and that kind of thing. But we are living in such a small world. Like His Holiness Dalai Lama says, universal responsibility. Thich Nhat Hanh says, Buddhism without border. Of course, he's using the coin, Doctors Without Border, or all the without border. He might be borrowed that terminology, but he's actually listening to the world. That people don't want to be taught to put another boundary, as the modern therapist teaches us to do. Buddhism teaches not to build another boundary. bring down all the boundaries, including Berlin Wall. So Buddhism doesn't need boundaries of languages, that it is caught up in these. And that's why perhaps in the actual Vietnamese Buddhist hierarchy, they don't see a role of Thich Nhat Hanh so great as they usually would for someone like him, because they can't understand it. They're so much caught in their box, in the Buddhism with borders, they can't understand it. But now he has completely blown up their mind from the actual strength of his work that has benefited many people beyond the borders of Buddhism. People don't have to become Buddhists. He says he has friends who are practicing meditation. He has many people who come to attend his meditation retreats who are Christians. There's no pressure for people to become Buddhist, or no pressure to become people to do any particular way. They just simply have to learn how to breathe in and be present. I mean, that's pretty free, isn't it? Breathing in is free, and they just want to learn to breathe in together. And who needs a boundary? Who needs the religion? So he has basically transcended the religiosity. And this is what the real engaged Buddhist activity. His engaged Buddhism doesn't mean the Buddhists should always carry this Dharma wheel and the flag and go on the protest everywhere and haggle everyone. He doesn't mean that's the engaged Buddhism. He means exactly what he did. So we need to really learn to appreciate and rejoice at what a valid contribution, what an actual bodhisattva he truly was, and his life that may have now, mortal body may have died, and he said he don't want to be put in a stupa and so on and so forth. It's good, true, but that is the box Buddhism. Always have to build the big stupas, bigger the stupa, greater the Lama, all that sort of stuff, That's not engaged Buddhism. Engaged Buddhism is that you actually do the work. You have to do the work more important than trying to create an institution of the Lama who died or monk who died, and then try to create all these things. People get so caught up in this idea of searching for his reincarnation. And of course that is not a tradition, fortunately, most other Buddhist traditions don't suffer from. Tibetan Buddhism suffer from this tradition of having to search for the reincarnation of this very holy master who passed away. And all the resources, all the energy just goes into searching presumably the correct reincarnation. And remember, when you look for the correct, you tend to end up with half a dozen incorrect ones. And when you go over the half a dozen shortlisted incorrect ones, there are going to be a lot of rivalries. Even without political organization, without being involved, it becomes naturally very divisive. And we don't need that in Buddhism. So that's why he doesn't want to have himself put inside a stupa. Because there was this tradition that the bigger the stupa of the master who passed away in his memory that was built, I think someone will build. I think somebody will disobey him. They're gonna scatter his ashes or something. I don't know what that is about. I don't think Buddhists need to scatter any ashes. There's no ashes. That is you. Let alone Thich Nhat Hanh. He said the candle that is burned, it has no candle left. So what are you gonna scatter the candle that has no left of candle? He's gone to the earth, he's gone to the water, he's gone to the air, and to whichever four elements his mortal body was constituted by. So there's quite a few sayings here and there of Thich Nhat Hanh, that I've come home or something like that, I'm solid, or some of those sayings seems a little bit problematic, because if I'm home, I've come home, I'm solid, and because whole teaching, there's nothing of I that has to be solid. There's no solid, Of course, when you're present, when you're alive in the body, then it's good to feel strong and firm like that. Maybe that's what he meant. But the whole idea of not needing to seek a reincarnation of his, not needing to build a stupa, all of that, there's a lot of messages of emptiness without mentioning emptiness. There's a lot of these messages of interdependent origination by using words like interbeing and things like that. So we need to really look at some of the key words that he has been using, what has made many people to understand the teachings in such a way that has attracted not just people who are interested in Buddhism, but they just wanted to, they are interested in how to be kind and how to be mindful, how to be present. I mean, these are the languages that every breathing person can appreciate. World is mainly separated by so-called languages and us versus them. So the word Buddhism, whether people try to secularize Buddhism, there's a lot of attempt by people, quite a big group of people who think they should have practiced secular Buddhism. Thich Nhat Hanh never bothered to use the word secular Buddhism, not that I know of anywhere. He doesn't have to go through that length, as if there's something wrong with Buddhism. He didn't use those things. He didn't need to use those. He was quite skillful to use the simple languages without trying to make a compromise, as Buddhism is not suitable for the secular community. The only thing that he used was similar to secular Buddhism, was engaged Buddhism. So it's engaged Buddhism only suggests that Buddhism was not quite engaged in the true Dharma practices, but it doesn't mean it has to become secular. It can still remain non-secular. It can still remain religious, maybe Vinaya and so on. But it has to be engaged in the society. It has to be engaged in translating the language in a way that people best can pick up the book and read and understand. And without thinking they have to change the religion, or they have to shave the hair, or they have to renounce the home and so on. Of course, when people join to become a Sangha member, I know a few people I know from Australia has went. Some have gone and closed the bank account, gave up the money away, everything, and then they just totally gave up in being part of Sangha. Others went there and came just as quickly as they went there because it wasn't for them. So of course there wasn't just as simple as you thought it was, you know. You still have to give up quite a lot of things. You still have to fit in the community. You know, Westerners are very individualistic person, very brought up to look after yourself, and you know, who the hell you are telling me what to do? You don't mind, you don't like a small Asian nun to telling you to do everything. No, not many Caucasian women people will listen to the small-bodied people. You know, so all this idea of creating the community uh, to all kinds of races, religion for a long period, living in harmony, is very tall order, even for Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh. So, of course, everyone who goes to try to live in a community always have those challenges because they are still not able to be present. They still are still and absent from being present and still say, who the hell are you telling me? You know, and people have racial discrimination. They don't want someone smaller than them to tell them what to do. They don't want someone who doesn't speak fluent French or English to tell them what to do, even though their knowledge or experience is a little bit senior and so on. So of course there are those challenges. No wonder not everybody can even stay in Plum Village for very long. But it still has become the one of the most attractive place many people have gone and learned and studied. No place has kept everyone always staying anywhere, so it's no surprise that people come and go. That's the nature of samsara. It's not nature of Plum Village. It's nature of everywhere people come and go. Whether you go to some places, you can't see anybody now anymore. It's all new people. You hardly recognize anybody because it seems we have grown, we have become old, and people have moved on. So, of course, the Sangha of Plum Village, because it had already been created as a big village where many good people go and study, the very message and style in which Thich Nhat Hanh operated will be very hard to fill his shoes in, because he was such an operator of great understanding of the samsara, understanding of the division that world has suffered too much, and he thinks Buddhism doesn't need to be promoted for the sake of Buddhism, but it needs to promote it for the sake of humanity at large. And that is what really so clear message that I could rejoice in the most venerable past late Thich Nhat Hanh in his very honor, and that all of you also may have had a good connection with him, maybe listening to him or meeting him. If not, his works, his books, his teachings are there for us to break some of the boundaries and boxes and around your life, and then make the teachings a little bit much more relevant in how to become fully present. And then we are taking actions of things that we have denied or suppressed or ignored, because then we are not staying disengaged. We are really engaged in working our past miseries, not lumping them into people or past, but try to confront them in your meditation, and then try to breathe in mindfully, and then say, I can look this in a different way, and then smile, and do that. When you do a couple of rounds like that, you have already shifted your narrative, and you have already tranquilized your pain. You know, pain doesn't go away, but pain needs to be confronted, and pain needs to be understood from its cause, from not causing another pain by denying, rejecting, and try to turn away and run away from. And that's really his messages. Now, who doesn't have pain of that kind? Everybody has pain of that kind. And do they have to be Buddhist? No. Do they have to change religion? No. They simply need to go to a simple mindfulness retreat. So later this year, I'm going to promote this idea, because when someone like the position of Thich Nhat Hanh passes away, we need to carry his legacy. Not that what we were doing was different, but we were all doing the similar things. But we need to promote that more by breaking down the boundaries between traditions and cultures and languages, how the great, what I call universal messages of great bodhisattvas like Thich Nhat Hanh, his work is, and people need to therefore learn to practice that, and therefore he has not passed away, but he has enlivened many people's nearly breathless life to become resuscitated. So he is the resuscitator of the breathless people, not the one who passed away and we have to suffer the loss. No way. I don't think like that. And I don't also think like that when my master passed away. Every great master passes away. They enliven us, inspire us much more than we thought we were losing by their immortality. So the word loss is not used. It's a taboo to use in Buddhism. A death of a master, we don't call it death. We call Mahaparinirvana. We should not use the word death or loss. We should use Mahaparinirvana, great passing away, by which we actually gain more life and breath by remembering him, by listening to his teaching, by remembering how to practice the mindfulness and promoting that, and then breaking the boundaries and engage and bring some small kind of margin of changes in your own life. Whether you call it miracle or not, maybe he used the word miracle because he was addressing these in the Judeo-Christian community. They tend to like the miracles. I think in Buddhism, miracle is almost a dirty word. Buddha said, don't try to show miracles, even if you have the power to do so. One should not forecast people's future. One should not tell that you know people's past, even if you do. That's not important. So the word miracle mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh used simply for the audience where people are always looking miracles. But actually, in Buddhism, there's nothing is miraculous except the law of cause and effect. Cause and effect cannot be, cheated. Because you do a miraculous thing, you can cheat the cause and effect. No. Enlightenment is also cause and effect. And so is samsara. So there is no alternative to the cause and effect. But miracle in the sense is that you can make these amazing, wondrous changes that you thought were so difficult. To make things appear and disappear, that's not the miracle. Now, this seeing that we can see each other, this is a miracle, isn't it? I mean, this is pretty miracle. Miracle of modern technology. So what? We know how it works. All the wires, all the numbers, all the passcode, all the meeting numbers. It's nothing so miracle. You just have to get the right postcode and these things. It's just mathematics, pure mathematics. I mean, otherwise, this will be common city in all Buddhist tradition. This will be all common city, being able to see people and, and the foreseeing or clairaudience. This is clairaudience because we can all hear each other. Seeing each other is clairvoyance. Now, these are no longer miracle, okay? So don't get caught up in the word miracle of mindfulness, It's ordinary mindfulness. It's not extraordinary mindfulness. It's ordinary mindfulness that is miraculous when you use it. When you just use the ordinary mindfulness of breathing in, and then you make amazingly ordinarily simple changes. And maybe in a religious community, word miracle will go very well. But in Buddhism, it's a dirty word, Buddha himself was resisting from showing miracles. all his opponents and rivals were showing miracles to as if they can outperform the Buddha, because they're all losing devotees to the Buddha, like Thich Nhat Hanh was attracting all these people, and everybody was flocking to the Buddha, and all his rival was trying to show all these actual supernatural powers, and Buddha would not show anything. And all the kings requested the Buddha to show miracles so as to bring back those lost devotees. Buddha said, no, I will not do that. This is not important. Now the Thich Nhat Hanh has done just that. He, without promoting Buddhism, he thought he was escaping somewhere for a refuge, to live somewhere in France or America. No, he actually created a refuge to everyone to find Dharma, without calling it. That kind of change, that kind of shift in your own narratives, that is wondrous transformation. We call them transformation. Dharma is wonderful transformation. Dharma is inconceivable. To say the miracle is just understatement. Come on. To say Dharma is miracle, it's a disparaging. Dharma is inconceivable, inexpressible. How can you call it miraculous? So, of course, we have to use some languages according to the audience. So anyway, I definitely have a lot of respect and inspiration from The's wonderful Dharma work, and he passed away at the age of 95, which is really a good number, good inning. My mother also lived to 95, so it's not really surprising. Thich Nhat Hanh lives, but he has to still die from this severe brain hemorrhage. So the death is always a necessity. You can't practice miracle mindfulness, still not die, or not die from a particular physical complication. So you can't deny that. So you have to breathe in that. You have to breathe in, and that's the nature of life. Because one is born, one will die, but that's nothing of the thing. So some people say, oh, I don't believe in these things. Why people have such power, but they have to die in such pain and such, of hemorrhage? Why they don't show miracles? And some people might be looking post-death kind of miracles, or turning his remains into stupas and syllables and statues and so on. Tibetan Buddhists are really caught up in looking and getting attached to searching those things when they're sweeping all the ashes at the funeral pyre. They're all looking for that. And some people are actually showing those everywhere on the social media and so on. These days you see them so often. So I'm glad that that's not happening, because Thich Nhat Hanh said, you won't find me. You don't find a candle after a candle's burned off. So don't look for Thich Nhat Hanh's bones turning into a long ear-lobed Buddha. Okay, no, he's not attached to such. That's disengaged Buddhists are looking for that. Real engaged Buddhism would not look for such what you call relics. Real relics is his work. Come on. Some Buddhists also takes the truth relics of Buddhas here and there. I don't want to be sort of disrespectful, but teachings of the Buddha, altruism, compassion, these are the real relics. These are the most immortal relics. It doesn't need to be put into a glass, in a cage, in a box, and locked away. It is completely for people to practice. And what does Thich Nhat Hanh has done is he has revealed the one that has everybody is almost not able to reveal, in a language, in a style that everybody can receive. What a great being Thich Nhat Hanh truly was. And so thank you for everybody's attention this morning, and I'm sure you will have many time reason to rejoice his life and honor him and practice the very clear messages of mindfulness at the present moment. So thank you very much, everyone. So we will do the dedication of merits, that this immortal work of Thich Nhat Hanh becomes remembered and rejoiced, and benefit many sentient beings. So with this, we do the short dedication of merits, which we will screen share to you. Om Bade Mere Me Hovaga Da Jefa Benzenge Hom Neze Me Ale Bere Dobi from the ocean of Badore Zenere Erenda Mahayana Jiji Vadeva Merera Mehobe Begas Jalavaza Jehoda Mahayana Jije Kareja Manju Shunಯವode Azama Draba Drajilaiwa Walowe Awade Hezamba Aisha Dege Odimere Mede Hexelem Bodi Jida Tebe Erena Yadazo Where has been Bomeyeringer Really Vedadi Generation. Thank you, everyone. Take care. We are about to start a new term teachings this Tuesday night, so those are all on our website. Of course, the Tuesday night teaching starts 7:45, and we are starting completely new term. This is a special Mahayana Buddhist text called Uttara Tantra by Asanga. So we are starting that this Tuesday. If anybody wish to join, you're most welcome. So otherwise, see you at the other times. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you. Thank you, Lenhua. How are you?
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, Rinpoche.